Hello, welcome. God bless you, obviously. Yeah, we're going to look at another lady in a series of Christian women that we've been looking at. The others being Corrie ten Boom, Katharina Luther. Gosh, can't remember the other one. How awful. I can see her in my mind's eye. Either way, ladies in Christianity, as it were. So I'll be able to see the live chat, and I'm going to, as you may know, if you've seen the screen grab and the title of the vid, it's I'm not sure of the pronunciation, to be fair. So Teresa of Avila. There's only one L. Avila. And her life spanned from 1515 to 1582. And as you may have seen from the title, her full name anyway, let's butcher it as it were, Teresa de Cepeda y Ahumada. Okay, so however her friends pronounce that, she had a liking for nice clothing. Her fashion sense aesthetically went well with her outgoing and vivacious personality. Whilst she was still a young woman, she had the most decadent jewellery, fabrics, stone-studded earrings, massive brooches, which I'm sure were in fashion, ostentatious rings, silks, lace, that kind of shebang. She had always her hair in the latest style, and she wore perfume, and she often spent her evenings on the town, as we would call it, with friends, suitors, dancing, partying, basically. She was quite temperamental, it's reported, and she was equally effusive, bubbly, outgoing. And I guess those two qualities of hers depended somewhat on what time of the day it was. She loved to laugh, which is one of my things when I can. She was frivolous. She liked to gossip. She liked to entertain and to be entertained. She liked music. She had a penchant, I guess, for fine cuisine and what we can term, I guess, colloquially, the good life. There is a time for penance and a time for partridge, she once quipped. And essentially, she appreciated and craved attention. And that's handy because she was often at the center of it. So, that seems pretty radically different from the perception, if any, that you may hold of Teresa of Avila. Like Carmelite nun, theologian, saint, all of those things. Whereas in her younger days, she was materialistic, she was pretty vain, she was potentially, being described as shallow, could have been levelled at her as an accusation. She was certainly bold, even then. But these two, as it were most certainly one and the same lady. And if we look at our own lives before Christ, maybe we're able to, sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. We're able to recognize in ourselves some pretty radical changes. So the question is, how did she go from basically it girl, like a socialite, a fashionista? How did she become, what was the road towards sainthood? So again, I'm going to have to read her name. Oh my gosh. Teresa de Cepeda y Ahumada, maybe. 1515, as I said, was her year of birth. She was born in, I'm so sorry, Spanish people, I'm so sorry, in Gotarendura in Spain, or España. See, I do know. She was the daughter of Alonso Sanchez de Cepeda and his second wife, who was, the anglicized version is certainly Beatrice, but there's a Z at the She wasn't an only child by any stretch of the imagination. She was one of 12. However, she was born into a wealthy and prestigious family. They lived, she also, in like a massive sprawling compound, basically, which had numerous servants. Her home was filled with fine tapestries, Flemish tapestries, elaborate gardens. They also enjoyed, fine carpets, chandeliers, stately home furniture, that kind of setup. And although she was, as I said, she had an inclination for frivolity, she did, as a young girl, also have a deeper, more somber, potentially troubled side to her. And when she was 7, she took on the pages and the reading of Flos Sanctorum, which was like a miniature library, I guess, a collection, a popularized collection of stories about martyrs and saints. And she decided it would be more expeditious to martyr herself and go immediately to heaven than to live out her entire life, full stop. Like, she just went, yep, that's the one. And on the basis of this, it doesn't say what she thought about sainthood, as in maybe devoting her life to the church. But once she decided she would rather martyr herself than, live her life to potentially its natural conclusion many, many years hence, she convinced her older brother to run away with her to the moors. And when they arrived, she planned to proclaim her Christianity. Sorry, something's beeping, but that shouldn't. Sorry about that. You think you've silenced one, and then, okay, nobody else is going to call that back. Right, so yeah, she wanted to get there, proclaim her Christianity, and this is what she was hoping, nutter, be beheaded for it, and therefore get a do not pass go, go directly to heaven, as it were. So she and her brother crept out of their home and their grounds at dawn and got about as far as the Portals to the city before their uncle arrived on horseback and took them home, to not put too fine a point on it. Her mother died in childbirth, and at that time, Teresa was a young teenager, and she decided to wash the hands of the Virgin Mary and would prostrate herself before Mary's statue and beg Mary, in essence, to fill this massive void, this gap that her mother's absence had, opened up within her life. And this veneration of hers would continue with her through her life. But at this point, it didn't take her away at all from her love of, the enjoyment of life, as it were, the frivolity and all the things I mentioned. If anything, as is so often the case, to be honest, the bereavement of took her, or made it easier for her to get to the brink of all of the, I won't say malpractices, but all of the things she was doing which were not venerating anybody, kind of thing. So her father, at this stage, or as he watched this stuff, unfold, became pretty adamant and convinced that her honour was at stake, and he therefore sent her packing, basically, to an Augustinian convent, which was close to their home. And this convent ran a finishing school which obviously prepared those young ladies who lived there for, I guess, a domestically devout life. And at Santa Maria de Gracia, Teresa, portrayed the manner of a young lady who was pious. However, on the inside, she still struggled to, cast out, you could say, the demons that hung around and tormented her. In essence, she didn't want to be a nun. It hadn't been her choice, obviously, to go off to the convent, and she worried that she wasn't suitable, for like a spiritual commitment of this magnitude, which it certainly is. And she watched the older nuns and noted the passion that they displayed, like the dedication they had, their obvious love of God and devotion to their calling. She didn't, by comparison or even without that, she didn't feel any of the things that she observed. They would maybe cry when praying. She didn't. And she was disturbed somewhat by her lack of connection or obvious connection, like emotionally, to God. And this is a quote. It says, "She was a hard praying, dry-eyed realist." That's from her biographer, Kathleen Medrick. And another quote, "with, it seemed, very little to offer God." That's certainly true of all of us, really. But either way, she was worried that if she went into the convent, as in officially, if she became a novitiate and continued to what she thought of as fail at her prayers, she's already at 7 decided that like a full-time life, as it were, seemed like a long stretch. But at the thought of, failing to be an adequate nun, she just thought that her days would just, stretch on interminably and propel her into, or make more evident, an endless spiritual wasteland. And somewhat ironically, she was rescued. She was set free from this by an illness that was the first of many, many afflictions. She was forced to leave the convent and began convalescence at the home of her uncle. And it's here that she began to engage in long conversations with her uncle, theological conversations. And she says, "I began to grasp that truth which I had heard as a child, that all is nothing and that the world is vanity and on the verge of ending," she wrote. "And I began to be afraid that if I had died right then, I would have gone to hell, even though I couldn't make myself want to become a nun. I saw that was the best and safest thing to do, and so little by little I decided to bully myself into doing it." In a nutshell, she became a nun because she was less terrified of that prospect than of actually being condemned, to damnation, as it were. So now we skip forward somewhat to 1535. And anyone who's Europe at this time was certainly in upheaval theologically. The Reformation had occurred not too long before this, or was, in its infancy. And in 1535, she entered into la Encarnación. I don't know, because just so not Spanish and there's no little squiggles. So this is a convent anyway in Avila, where she stayed there for 26 years. And as an order of nuns, the one that she chose, not coincidentally, was a lot was significantly less demanding than the Augustinian convent, which she'd spent some time in. So there is a Renaissance scholar called Theodore Rabb, and he says this may indicate how gradually she moved from worldliness to the austerity for which she would eventually be known. And at l'Incarnation, Teresa, she had a 2-level suite. She had fine furniture. She had her own kitchen. She was allowed to entertain outsiders, relatives, friends, and was even encouraged to leave the convent, as it were, temporarily, when she needed to. She was referred to as Donna Teresa, which was like a nod towards her social standing, which they were obviously well aware of. And during her 30s now, she continued to suffer from ever increasingly worse bouts of illness, episodes of fainting, fevers, visions, which is going to be significant. And she interpreted that as a reprimand for her sins from God. So as she grew into her role within the convent as a nun, with relative ease, she still battled against, unsurprisingly, I mean, like she's not made of stone, with temptation of the kind that she was used to before, like just worldly distraction and frippery. So she says, all the things of God gave me great pleasure, yet I was tied and bound to those of the world. And she wrote that years later. So although I doubt she was pleased to include that, these recountings of these battles that she underwent. She had a 20-year battle. She wrote these in Vida, which was her autobiography, her spiritual autobiography. And she spoke at length on her struggles, her personal struggles, as a testimony to God's resilient, it's a lovely way to put it, forgiveness and pursuit of even the most persistent sinners, which she obviously was referring to herself. So now she's coming up to her 40th birthday, and she began to experience relief at last from the strife that she attributed, she believed it to be spiritual in origin. And she did this, it was alleviated by a new way of praying that she adopted, which fostered within her a more edifying sense of communion with God. And the visions would become known as her raptures. And one of these, the most famous of these, is portrayed by a sculptor, an Italian named Gian Lorenzo Bernini, and it's called The Ecstasy of Saint Teresa in Rome. In his hands, I saw a long golden spear, and at the end of the iron tip, I seemed to see a point of fire. And this is what she wrote about the angel who had visited her in a vision during this rapture. Not the rapture, this rapture. With this, he seemed to pierce my heart several times so that it reached my entrails. When he drew it out, I thought he was drawing them out with it. And he left me completely afire with a great love of God. That's nice. However, like I said, the prevailing mayhem of the time caused maybe it wasn't this that was the cause, but it certainly exacerbated the feelings of certain church officials who suspected, they didn't disbelieve in her raptures, as we're going to continue calling them, but attributed them to Satan, as one does. Or worse, that she was, attempting to commune directly with God, which they apparently felt was just not on. So following the birth, as it were, of the Protestant Reformation, which was certainly around 1521. It kind of dragged out a little bit. The Roman Catholic Church, the RC, they weren't having a bar of it. They were suspicious of even the most, just anything slightly unorthodox to their way of thinking. I don't mean like Orthodox Christianity, but yeah, they didn't know quite what to do because obviously she was a nun, and they didn't know what to do with a nun whose visions gave her apparent direct contact with God. At this point, by this point even, Teresa had renounced her worldly name, her secular name, and she had embraced the name, I'm just going to pronounce it in the anglicized version, Teresa de Jesus, de Jesus even. Whatever. And still, obviously she didn't do it for any reason other than she felt called to, but she still faced resistance from the church and the Inquisition. Like, really, it's not Monty Python. And that was until she finally died in 1582. So, several years after she entered Encarnacion, however it's going to be pronounced, or however it should be, she began to hear a new message and a new direction from God. So she realized that even though she devoted herself to the Lord, she hadn't eschewed or renounced or relinquished her comfortable existence, which was the result of her social standing. So due to this fact, she began to contemplate ways or, the possibility of a more austere existence, a stricter way of living for herself and for her nuns. And these included, unsurprisingly for a nun, a vow of poverty. And God apparently agreed with her. She felt encouraged in this to develop a new convent. And she herself believed that God even gave her the name for it, which was San Jose. So, if we compare, the first convent to the second, that was a massive difference. But now this departure from La Encarnacion to San Jose was like a dramatic, and it was even more dramatic if we consider the life that she led before any of the convents, the Augustinian, any of them. As I said at the top, she liked to live well, and she certainly did. But now that she had founded this convent, I was going to say order, but I'm not certain that it. I don't know where she veered in terms of naming nomenclature even. However, let me get back to the point. Instead of these fine silks and laces and fabrics and fancy jewelry and perfume and all of that stuff, she now basically wore a threadbare habit, and this was made of coarse wool, not comfortable soft wool. She would walk barefoot, and this was not just like in the courtyard, this was over rocky terrain, which was where she was. And instead of the fine food and the wine and the elaborate place settings and chandeliers and all of the stuff that she enjoyed at her home, she abstained now from red meat, and she only ate bread, cheese, fruit and vegetables. So, and these were cultivated on site within the garden at the convent. And now she forsook gossip and socialization and any form of being a socialite whatsoever. She basically there was either prayer or silence. And within all of these seeming hardships, she was the happiest that she'd been. And she describes these 5 years at San Jose as the most tranquil that she had ever experienced within her life. On top of this, on top of the physical hardship, I mean, walking around in the rocky terrain just with no shoes on is it's very difficult, I guess. Within this, the hardships that she endured in this reformed, convent life, whilst dealing, let's not forget, with health mini crises that still continued to worsen, she also faced massive amounts of obstacles in the founding of subsequent convents that she attempted and went on to do. And this process for her never was anything other than an uphill battle, in which she had to engage in political, negotiation, or business. She had to have some finesse and astute interpretation of the events and know how to counter these problems. She needed and displayed stamina, unwavering stamina, courage, and more so an obedience to what she perceived as, to obedience to God's will in the face of what seemed like ever-increasing, insurmountable obstacles. I'm not sure that I'd describe them like that when I feel like that. But, the first Mass that was held at San Jose, when the bells rang, for instance, as one of these problems, the people of the town rioted, as you do, closed the shops, stormed the convent in an attempt to cause the nuns to become terrified and flee the scene, as it were. And church officials still doubted her divine visions and insisted, to the contrary, that she was possessed by Satan. I mean, Jesus was also accused of doing things by the power of, I think, demons. Maybe Satan himself. Just throwing it out there. The Inquisition, literally nobody expects a Spanish Inquisition. I had to say it. But the Inquisition itself, as it were, came to her and her convents more than once. And all joking aside, this is, that wasn't a pleasant day's work. I'm confident. They demanded to inspect documents. They threatened her with hell, i.e. excommunication. They also threatened her with the imprisonment of her body, to go to jail. And in 1576, she was retired off. She was forced into retirement. We'll put that like a retirement. And this was at St. Joseph's Convent in Toledo. And it was after 3 years of basic imprisonment and several letters to Philip II of Spain, who was the monarch at the time, pleading by her that the investigation of, both her and other reformers was finally shelved, as it were, just dropped. Despite these, seemingly insurmountable, definitely overwhelming, come off it. She started off pretty comfortable and a bit snazzy, and now she's taking on the entire church, as it were, or she's being what's the word? Not really well, yeah, I guess that she's being treated as if she's an outsider, as opposed to someone who's devoted her life to that same, the same God that we all worship. Anyway, despite all of this, she eventually went on to found 16 convents, bless her, right across Spain, and that was before she died. All of them were in the barefoot discast. Yeah, that's the other word. The barefoot Carmelite order. And they all adhered to the 4 principles which she herself established, which were like a prerequisite for a vow of poverty, a renunciation of property, a disavowing, I guess, of social or class distinction, and enclosure, i.e., all outside worldly contact was severed. Also obedience. Just throw it out there because the rest seems redundant without it. So when she wasn't off traveling, like establishing convents across the countryside of Spain, and then carrying on visiting them and upkeeping them, and what a headache, like, I guess just all the admin and the I don't know, it's not like they were being assisted greatly by other members of the body of Christ, as it were. Negotiating for funds, dealing with church leaders, potentially scaring off rioters. I think that only happened once. Trying to get permission to start the next one. She often confined herself to the solitude of her cell in order to write. And those who were her superiors required her to keep a record, an account of her spiritual journey, which I mean is a blessing, like in a Romans 8:28, when whatever the motivations were, what a brilliant legacy. So most of the things that are known of her today, her visions, her business dealings, her prayer life, her thoughts, her justifications for her, conclusions within her beliefs, come from her autobiographical work, which is called the Vida, V-I-D-A, a spiritual autobiography also. She wrote it herself, obviously. She didn't have a ghostwriter. She edited it. She updated it over a period that spanned several years. So the Vida and the Foundations, which was a book concerned with the establishment of the convents, are both largely practical. And her later work, and the one that may be most widely associated with her, called The Interior Castle, that was kind of her labour of love, as it were. So she considered this, The Interior Castle, as a direct result of divine intervention. Those others of the sisters who witnessed her writing, they later noted that at her canonization hearings, she often wrote with her eyes not observing what she was writing, but raised up towards heaven. So within the middle of this pretty busy, demanding, hectic, multitasking, overwhelming, difficult to some extent life, she loved and appreciated the time that she was able to spend alone with God, and yearned for more of it. She says, "I never have peace and quiet for writing and have to work in snatches. I wish I had more time, because when the Lord inspires me, everything gets said much more easily and in a much better way. Then it's like doing a piece of embroidery with the pattern right in front of you." I can attest to that. So, there have been numerous biographies, essays, articles written about Teresa, and these attest to the legacy, her legacy as a heroine of our faith. So it's like a minimum 4 centuries since she's passed away, and she continues to be considered and applauded as a courageous reformer, a relentless reformer, a saint, theologian, mystic, and author. Beyond the convents and beyond those words that she wrote, she is certainly an example for not just Christian women, but Christians, full stop. There's something about the simplicity and the like understanding that she displayed within the like furore, like the madness, basically. Because she wasn't like I often used to fall into the trap of thinking that people like of certain eras, I don't mean like really like Bronze Age or anything, like far into the distant past, but even so, like I had considered them to be, because they didn't have the technology that we have and the information at their fingertips and the advances in industry and all of that stuff, as I don't know, like less intelligent, I guess. And then you just have to read Aquinas or like the Church Fathers, and you're like, oh my God, not so much. And in another respect, she wasn't much different in that the world called to her and satisfied her for some time. And it directly impinged upon initially the direction that I don't mean when she ran away from home, but that her life ought to take. Because of this like inner conflict, something that I need to be better. Like she didn't turn to anyone other than God in desperation. Fair enough. That's where we all get before we think, oh yeah. Well, I don't know about all, me. She gradually began to not only listen to him, because that's just so important. You can put your little heart into prayers and really like earnestly meant. Sometimes you feel the Spirit moving in you, like there's times when I have to kind of try and keep up with my own prayers because they just seem to be flowing. But you have to listen. You have to listen out for the answer, otherwise it's just like a out of office reply, like you just get on with the next task in your life, and you don't. I feel like it's a skill. It's not something that's innate. It's to listen out and to see where God, like, I can't speak for him. Like with me, he impresses things upon me, and certainly I have times when I feel like fully formed ideas are just slotted into my mind, like they just trickle down, and then like I've had times where I've had to quite quickly. It'll be when I'm relaxed, usually if I'm in the bath or something, where I have to get a pen and paper and write down what's literally being spoken in my mind before I forget the words. And that's kind of what she was saying when she said those times when she feels inspired. Obviously, it makes it like you're just you're working from an embroidery pattern. You're just following like what's already in front of you, ostensibly. So also with the listening, she then slowly learned, as we've seen, to put these things into practice, to be obedient to what was revealed to her. And she did struggle, with the same temptations, the same sins that we all, I guess, struggle with. And she may have been, to a certain degree, overly critical. It's not uncommon, and frustrated with her own, what she perceived as her shortcomings. In spite of this, in spite of the I was going to say real life. I mean, like alongside the outer, self and life with her. Like, she persevered. That's one thing that certainly she did in prayer, especially because you remember she had that feeling that, I don't do it as well as these Augustinian nuns. It has no meaning for me, in as much as when she compared herself to them, she thought like, it's not like that for me. It didn't initially come easy to her, to say the least. And yet practice, persistence, devotion enabled her to connect with God, like in an ever more progressively deeper nature. And when she finally, I guess, after all this time trying, when she finally heard his voice amid, remember, like all the madness that was going on and was about to come on, she did listen. And his part of the transaction, God's part, was that he did transform her, like from an it girl, like I said at the top, to a hugely influential and inspirational example of a woman of God, or just a Christian, like if you want to put it that way. She started off distracted by the world, and she ended up, to all intents and purposes, changing it. So that is Teresa, and that's all I've got to say about that. So, yeah. Does anybody have any? Hello, everyone. Other than Bill, who needs to keep both hands on the wheel, eyes front, etc. Yeah, you're very welcome, Jordan. It's lovely to see you. I'll send you over a list, Jordan, of I feel like I'll get through them all. So yeah, I can send. You can decide. It can be down to Jordan, everyone, which heroine of the faith gets spoken. I will do. Of next. Hello, James. You all right, love? Big up your ear, obviously. Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? And I don't know, maybe a little topic. I guess I could go for a short while longer. I don't have to, obviously. I've had, I've not been having a good few days. Water? No, you might love. Steve, is that a genuine? Okay. Steve is asking, will he go to heaven? Deuteronomy 23:1. Steve, you did ask. Says, any man who crushes his stones, that's poetic language, or basically severs his privy member, that's the KJV, i.e. cuts off his stuff, will not enter the assembly of God. Steve, I feel that you're not one of, that's not an issue for you, but I just thought, like in the spirit of being transparent, I should throw that out there. But Paul, is it Paul? If you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead and confess with your mouth that Christ is God, Lord in capital letters, you will be saved. So what more do you want? I mean, it's a good deal. Take it. I know you already have anyway. Chris Mac, watcher. Yeah, the alternative, not much of a day trip. It's not a day trip at all. It's an eternity of torment. So I'd just repent regularly, really. Oh, there's a bug in my... Oh, okay. Can I get it? I'm not into bug rights. Ah, you fudger. No, it got me. Right. So anyhow, the summer has started. It's going to be Jumanji soon in this house again. James, how many heavens are there? Well, the heaven that people, I mean, it depends. Like, in English, you can rightfully call the lowest part of not the lowest part, the stratosphere. I'm not an astrologer or an astronomer, but that bit where the stars are, just pointing out the window, it's not on my wall. That could be considered the lowest heaven, or the closest part of heaven, as it were. Theologically, heaven is described in Revelation as the new earth, weirdly. So this heaven and this earth will pass away by fire, the earth. But Christ's words will by no means pass away. That's in Hebrews. And then it speaks of like a walled enclosure, and outside will be liars, idolaters, whoremongers, blah, 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 like a raft of different people. But obviously that includes a lot of us are lying. That's everyone at some stage. So not the trick. The gift is that Christ has atoned for those things. If you put your trust in him and his defeat of death and atonement for our sins, he grants forgiveness. Ongoing, by the way. Like anyone who's considering Christianity, you haven't got to get all your shiz together, as it were, immediately and cease and desist with any, you haven't got to just basically retreat into a corner with white noise playing in your ears in case you think something naughty. Don't worry. Also, you may be pondering to yourself, but what will I do when I'm perfect? Not to worry. Seriously, chill out with that stuff. It's not going to happen. Nope. I feel like I know you. I feel like I know your first initial. If that is you, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you sound like one of my friends anyway. Okay, so any other questions? Mohammed? Mohammed, sometimes you make so little sense while you're trying to trigger people. I understand that Christies is Christians. I like the apostrophe. However, if you're saying some of you Christians have to repent, those are big shoes you're filling up there, because that was what Jesus said. But even the fact that you said some of means others don't, and therefore you do get Christians like her anymore. All right, Jay. Please download your socials again, because I was trying to get a hold of you the other day, just throwing it out there. Abandonment issues over here. Anyway, yeah. So you're looking at one, Mohammed. I haven't done my testimony, and I haven't set up any convents either, definitely. Yes, you do, Jay, and we all do, yes. But I take umbrage at Mohammed saying I have to, because he is he's got to be of his father, because he's not of God, as in Yahweh. So, you know what I mean? Chill out. Mohammed, don't you have to start smiting the unbeliever and fight even though you don't want to fight, because it's prescribed for you to fight, because Allah certainly knows best, or surely knows best? I think you do. So you could chill out with what you have to do. I'll chill with what I have to do. And everyone will just, they won't get on great, because you'll be smiting unbelievers. I don't know what you're talking about now, love. Honestly, try and keep Just try, Mohammed. You all right, Mr. Brown? Yeah, pierced for our transgressions. Can't think of the verse. Yeah, well, if you stick that in the comment section. I know I said that to you last time and then I didn't get around to it, but I got uni started up again now. But yeah. If you, the two words you're choosing, suffering God, you're using a lowercase g, which is a little bit insulting, but maybe that was whatever. the Messiah within the Old Testament is given divine qualities, and I can right now, if you like, send you one of my. I just literally finished an assignment on the King of Kings and the Son of Man being divine within the Old Testament. So, like proving at least that when Christ claimed to be the Son of Man, he was claiming divinity. That's not the only way he did it, but that was the assignment title that I did. So yes, again, I have a whole 1,500 words if you'd like, and I'll find you the couple of verses that you seem to have overlooked. I know what you meant. Nope, as it were. Weirdly, I didn't even. Sometimes I've got a bit of an OCD about spelling mistakes, but I didn't even clock it. I was like, that's nice for you, Mohammed. Mohammed is emulating somewhat Teresa before her conversion, or before joining the nunnery, in appreciating the aesthetics of fashion. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. Right. Any more for any more, as it were? Yeah, I haven't been having the best few days. More bereavement, more drama. But it's a blessing to just wake up in the morning. Like, increasingly, that's impressed upon me. I know, I heard you, Mr. Brown. I don't know why you're saying it again. I heard you. I've got a 1,500 word essay that shows the divinity of the Messiah, and then I will show you a prophecy of the Messiah. It's fine. I'm not going to do it now, am I? I don't have it to hand. I don't feel that everyone would be sitting comfortably enough to listen to 1,500 words. So, yeah. But the verses, I mean, if anyone, I don't know, someone else can find the verse if they want, stick it in the comment section, or I will. It's fine. And that's true. No, you're true in your statement. Night, James. Yeah, hint. Jimmy's like, bye now. Suffering servant is, I guess Isaiah 53 is what you're looking for, but maybe that's a polemic. So I can find you other stuff. That's fine. Jordan, any last words before I pop off? Because I keep thinking I'm going to do a snappy little vid. It's just not happening. I'm going to do some more shorts. Potentially more shots. I haven't started with the shots though. He's speaking to Nope, or he's okay. Jordan is out of the contribution game at this stage, and yes, they do Nope, or Jay. They do think there's 2 messiahs and 0 satans. They think, well, no, that's not true. They don't believe that Satan. They don't. They have a radically different view. They think that Satan is an angel who has never been called Lucifer, who was always called Satan, and his job is, as far as they're concerned, to go and afflict at the behest of God, like he's a company man, and he's just out there doing this thing, I guess. Bill, funny you should ask. I feel like that was one of the names on the list of potential women that I'll be speaking about. If it isn't, I can always cobble something together. So very little is the answer. What do you think of Licia, I guess? What do you think of this lady, Bill? Like, but type quickish. I mean, in a sound bite. Like, I don't need a thesis. Jordan, I'm going. Give me a minute. Well, Bill's asking me a question. 2 secs. And then we're done. We're going to wrap it up, I promise. Yeah, that is. I got a video on it. I had quite a nice conversation, actually, with Josh. I'm not surprised because it was nice with Josh. I always have nice conversations with him. But, yeah, it's amazing, like, how you can, when you're not speaking to Modine, like, actually have a calm, measured polite, pleasant conversation. Yeah. Yeah, it's up on my channel anyway. I think it's called like Messiahs to Satan Nil or something like that. But yeah, I found it interesting anyway. Okay, Bill, you might have to tell me in the comment section, babe. Oh no, I feel bad in case you're typing. Okay, I'm going to give it like 30-ish seconds. Nope, I assumed that some inspiration had grabbed you. Your deep knowledge of theology and Judaic like interpretation of the scriptures had come to your aid, and it turns out no, you've seen the vid. That's funny. Oh, you changed your name, Mr. Brown. I just thought you just added Speaker's Corner. That's nice. Hi, 37. Okay, Bill. Sorry, love, but I mean, I've got grieving to do, as it were, or at least I've got, I don't know, I have got some stuff to do actually at this time of night. Excellent, Bill. I love it. The soundbite motif really just, yeah, little weight is good. Love it. A man of few words. I know, Mohammed. I know. The rush is that we're coming up to 1 hour. I have a video call scheduled. Actually, I don't know if they've responded to me. Yeah, I had. I offered to help somebody approached me for some help with something, and I feel like it's a worthy cause, so I'm going to help them as much as I can. Yeah, there's no rush. However, the trick is, Mohammed, to leave them wanting less. No, it's not. It's to leave them wanting more. So if I keep bunnying on, because I know myself, in my watch later list, there's vids that are an hour long, and I'm just like, I haven't got time. I could just play it like the radio, I guess. But yeah, at the moment, like 20 mins, I reckon, it's the most I can focus on whilst I've got other stuff going on. But at the same time, it is a blessing. Like to have a distraction from the inside of my own brain. So yeah, that's your answer. That's a good answer to end on. I'm going to press the red button, as we like to call it. As anyone likes to call it, I guess. Not really a button, but I've done it anyway. The first one. Right, nope. Hopefully, I shall catch you. Well, stop running. But yeah, I'll speak to you soonish. Yeah, everyone else, I'll see you soonish if you come to the park, and you'll see me soonish, i.e., I reckon tomorrow. Tomorrow's always a good day to do stuff until it's today. But yeah, I'm going to let you all go, and I'm going to say, what am I going to say to end? Like, life is significant. Like the opposite of, like, so you feel sad when people, well, I assume you do as well, like when people die, especially if we've loved them or known them or, you know, grieved their absence. I mean, the Bible does say we don't mourn those who are saved, as it were, because we know, but we do. Like, not in defiance, but it's just like natural. It's healthier to acknowledge the loss. Yeah, I know, Bill. I got that. And so what am I trying to say? Like, time is precious and short. Nobody knows. I mean, like, it's all very well having friends passing away and ones who are desperately ill, terminally ill. But none of us are guaranteed tomorrow at all. I mean, in 1 minute, technically, it is tomorrow, but that's not the point. If I dropped it now, you'll know why. It's not funny. Yeah, we don't, like those of you who have children, even if you don't, those of you who are children, whose parents are still around, like, you matter to somebody a lot. You are able to, like, you know, certainly to the people to whom you matter, you're able to lift them up. And you're also able to make their lives feel, you know, worse. That's the blessing and the curse of, like, familial relationships, of any relationships. If we're not careful, we can, you know, bring people down. But if we are careful, or if we, sometimes we can lift them without knowing, just making someone smile, making someone laugh, even if you're not, if that's not your full intent. Where am I going with this? I'll tell you where I'm going with this. Listen up, people. You'll regret it if you don't say what you need to say. With me, if I don't say what I ought to be saying, I feel like a coward for a start, and I start beating myself. I think, just say it. What's the matter with you? What are you worried about? Start giving myself grief. Also, the things you ought not to say or have said already, like there's a chance to, whilst you have breath, there's always a chance to repair some of the hurt, or, love a little bit more, or show, not right this minute, James. I seem like I'm live streaming. Sorry, I'm just reading a different set of messages. Thank you, though, babes. It's not urgent. I'll chat to you tomorrow if that's right. So, you're able to, we are able, certainly Christians are able to love each other in ways that I feel like sometimes we are lacking in, maybe because of theological differences or whatever, just because you don't feel like it, just because it's a Wednesday, just because, don't you know what she said about blah, blah, blah. None of it, like in an eternal sense, is of any significance whatsoever. Even the big things like that we experience, change, loss, marriage, birth, death, the biggies, in reality, like spiritually real, salvation is the only game in town. That's the only important thing. Because I'm not like OSAS, once saved, always saved, because of the Bible. Feel like we should maybe choose our words and our behaviours towards those we know love us. Even if you act as if you love someone, you will learn to, because we are to love everyone. We don't have to like them, obviously. We don't have to approve of them, anything like that. But everyone is loved by God. That's a definite. Sermon over. Sorry. Some of you are getting ready for bed and you're like, all right. But what you can do is pray. Pray for ways in which to make someone's day just a tiny bit better, because you will feel better because of it, I promise. Like, that's what I always do. The more despondent or the worse I feel, maybe I've missed a trick. Maybe I should ask God for a different way. But yeah, what I do now is I try and do something for Jesus, i.e. make a video or speak about something or call somebody or send somebody a message, or I don't know, whatever it is, write letters to the persecuted church, just anything that isn't me. And even psychologically, if you get outside of I don't mean get out, I mean get outside of your own head or your own void, desolate landscape, if you're grieving on the inside, do something for somebody else, and it would just work if we all did something for each other. If we all, put each other's needs above our own, we would all still have what we need, because somebody else would be helping you with that. Right. I'm not preaching at you, I promise. I'm just throwing it out there as an idea, to have some sort of kindness revolution whilst the world seems to be ending. On that bombshell, I'm going to say God bless you. The real God, obviously, he does. He's blessed you with loads of chances, so you might as well take one. And that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. I won't see you, you'll see me. And you can talk to me in the comment section. And that's it, really. I've got to go now. Got to put the phone down, as it were. Don't like goodbyes. Having difficulties with them, certainly at the moment. But you never know. The time you say goodbye could be the last time you ever get the chance. So don't faff about. Just, I don't know, tell your mum you love her if you're lucky enough to still have one. Tell your kids that, I don't know, do it. Don't just think it. I'm going to shut up now. God bless you. And you'll see me soon. All right. Ciao.